Hi, friends. I love essential oils because they are God's designed plant-based medicine. I have been using them for over 35 years, and by far doTERRA is my favorite brand. After using another company to save money for years, I realized that because of doTERRA's unmatched potency, I only needed one drop instead of the 3 to 5 drops I was using before, which is crazy. I've used essential oils for everything from hormone balance to gut infections, viral bacterial infections to fevers, scrapes, cramps, bruises, you name it. I love knowing I have safe, natural solutions for my family. And in fact, my kids love them so much that from teens to young adults, they all ask for their own sets, which is awesome. doTERRA also goes through rigorous third-party testing to ensure pure, powerful, and effective oils just as God intended. If you are ready to start your own plant-based medicine cabinet, check out the link to my favorite essential oils in the show notes. And now let's get back to the show. Hi there. Welcome back to Everyday Health for the Christian Woman. I am thrilled to have you join me. Today's conversation is for the woman who has been praying, trying, adjusting, and showing up, and yet still feels like progress is slow or inconsistent. Maybe you've changed how you eat. Maybe you've tried supplements or programs. Maybe you're working on stress and spiritual growth, and you still find yourself thinking, why is this taking so long? In her book, Erin talks about Jesus as our GPS, our great positioning shepherd. I love that. Today, we're talking about what that means, what it looks like to trust God's direction when the route is longer, slower, or nothing like we planned. Anybody else been there? Erin works with capable, established women who are used to making things happen, and that makes waiting, surrendering, and trusting God's timing incredibly challenging. And from a health standpoint, this is so important because real healing almost never happens in straight lines. It happens in layers, seasons, and often in ways that don't look impressive, but make radical changes. So today we're talking about long seasons, slow growth, and why God's timing may actually be protecting you. So go ahead, silence your phone, get rid of all of the distractions, and lean in with part 2 of my interview with Erin Harrigan. Erin, welcome back on the show today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Amber. I'm excited to continue our conversation.
Yes, yes. All right, so let's hop right back into this. So I have a question for you. So I deal with highly motivated and busy women. That's who I work with. They are the women that everybody wants there, like they're their go-to girls. So why do you think that these women struggle so much with just trusting in God's timing?
Because it's hard to wait, right?
Yes.
I mean, think about it, right? When we were little on Christmas morning, it's hard to wait. It's hard to wait for that next thing. I was reading in Joshua this morning, and one thing that I noticed in that particular book, but the Lord does it throughout his word, he says things like, I have delivered them into your hands. Now go do this, right? Yes. And so he makes that promise. It is a promise. It is done. But Joshua and the troops don't hold back and wait and say like, okay, well, you gave them to us. We don't have to do anything. And as women who love to be in motion, I like to say the hustle fuels our adrenaline, but hustle can be rocket fuel and it can be poison, right?
Yes.
Which is why we have to redefine it. That we like to be in motion. If we sense that the Lord has called us to something, we're ready. We're like, let's get it done. Let's deliver it. Let's move on.
Yes.
And he wants us to be guided by him. We talked about this before, our great positioning shepherd. So I think we struggle with trusting him because we're like, did I hear you right? Because nothing is moving. Or, well, I went and I did this thing, but it didn't seem to lead this way. And we struggle with that because, we want to drive. I equate it to being on the highway. Like, no, Lord, I wanted to get off at that exit and you're still driving. Or
yes.
What do you mean we're getting off here? No, we have more to go, right? We struggle with trusting him because I'm just going to say it. I think we haven't come fully into agreement and into surrender that his word is true, that his promises are real. He shows us throughout scripture that he keeps his promises, that his word does not return void. But we have an expectation that he will either A, do it the way we want it done, or B, he will do it the way he's done it in the past. Well, he loves like any good father, he loves to surprise and delight us. So he's going to do things differently, right? He wants us in awe. And we have a challenge with that. And that's why I think we're challenged by trusting him, because we just think we know better.
Yes. And we don't. We
No.
don't.
We
No,
so
because
don't.
something you just said about like we have not come into agreement with God's word. I was actually just listening to a fabulous teaching on neuroplasticity just the other day, and how, right, God knew all of this and science is just now proving it. All of his promises, like we have to hold on to them, but we also need to speak them out loud, because that is what literally retrains our brain. And so anything that we're struggling with, that, just really hanging on to God's truth, hanging on to his promises, speaking them out loud, believing them, and retraining our brain, we have to retrain our brain.
And I think I saw you share about that. And I was like, yes, because here's the thing, friends. The world wants us following our heart. The world wants us talking about our feelings. The world wants us trusting our feelings. I had a client years and years ago, probably when I was first starting out in coaching, who said, so you want me to deny my feelings? And I said, no, your feelings are a gift from the Lord, and they're not facts, right?
Yes.
They are information.
Yes.
But if we want to hold on to this is why he says we have to renew our mind. The renewing of the mind is neuroplasticity.
Yes.
But we have to do that so that we are not subject to the whims of our heart, because our heart can be deceitful, subject to the whims of our feelings, because if every time we had a feeling, we burned it all down to start over, where would we be? And we've got to be in that place of renewing our minds, which he tells us to do. And we have to come into agreement that not only is that necessary, but that there are promises attached to that as well.
Yes, no, it's so true. So why do you think that God sometimes you think it's the long way? We would rather take a shortcut. Why do you think that happens? And why do you feel like sometimes women think that they're just going in circles?
Well, we're kind of like the Israelites, are we not? I mean, they went in circles. I think it's said, I share this in the book, that I think it could have been like an 11 to 15 day trip out of Egypt, but no, it was 40 years. Why? The Lord could have taken them the short way, just like he can take us the short way. Yeah. But what he wants is our trust and our full selves and our surrender. And the reason that sometimes it seems like we're going in circles is because there's something that he wants to take us deeper in. The enemy would tell you, well, you've been obedient. You've done all the things. He's just punishing you. I'm here to tell you that is a lie. That is a lie. But sometimes we go in circles because he's given us one thing to do, and we've said, well, let me multiply that so I can go further. Or he's called us to do one thing and we're like, ooh, no, Lord, that's too risky. I'm not going to do that. That's out of my comfort zone, right?
Yes.
Our comfort zone is we want to go from A to B as quickly as possible, with as least pain as possible and as efficiently as possible.
Yes.
And he never operates in our comfort zone. So he wants to take us out of our comfort zone. And sometimes that does mean we have to go in circles, because sometimes, and I'm speaking to myself here, Amber, we are seeking the provision and the promise more than we are seeking the Lord.
Yes. Yes. A million times over. I mean, that is something God's been teaching me over and over through I've been walking through a horrible valley for 5 years. So yes, and it's like God, he wants us to hunger and thirst for him. And that's what he said to the Israelites. He's like, I took you this way so that you would learn that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from my mouth. And so that goes into every decision we make. Are we choosing to please ourselves, other people, or the Lord? And are we choosing to believe ourselves, the enemy, other people, or the Lord? It's always one of those things.
Absolutely.
I have another question. So let's go back to those uncomfortable seasons. So why do you think that growth happens in the uncomfortable seasons? Because there's a lot of them. I mean, the older I get, the more I'm like, my gosh.
I totally agree with you. I believe it's multifaceted, but I would say a few things. Number one, we think this is, again, where the world has commandeered words. You should be thriving. Well, when a seed is planted, it is planted as darkness. It starts to take root in darkness, and we don't see evidence of its growth right away.
Yes. Yes.
So thriving happens in darkness. Same for us, right? These uncomfortable seasons are necessary because the Lord is teaching us to rely fully on him, not on ourselves. The Lord is not going to be hemmed in a number of places. I know in Psalms, and I think in Isaiah, and a number of places it says that he has drawn my boundary line. He has brought me into spacious and gracious places. Left to our own devices, we will set up 100-foot tall fence.
Yes.
That is impenetrable to protect ourselves, to protect our assets, to protect our families, right? And he's got to break through that and show us that he is bigger than what we can construct. So he's got to take us out of our comfort zone, because if he leaves us there, his work is limited, not because of him, but because we limit that, because we don't allow the margin and we don't allow the growth. And that is the only place the growth happens. I want to be clear, however, that the world is really fast to throw another mantra on the wall and a poster that says life begins outside of your comfort zone. Well, friends, that hits different for us as daughters of the Most High King, because our life is outside of our expected comfort zone, because that is life with him.
Yes.
And going back to what you said earlier, the only way we access that, yes, through Jesus, is it is a constant laying down of ourselves, a constant coming to the end of ourselves, being in surrender, trusting him, you know, even speaking to his word. Well, Lord, your word says this and your word says that. So I'm going to believe and I can be expectant that your promises are true.
Yeah. That's good. That's so good. Yeah, no, I'm just like totally taking in everything. This is so encouraging to me. And this is very encouraging. So let's talk about comparison. I mean, my gosh, I have struggled with that since I was a teenager. And now social media makes it a million times worse. And then teaching and training my own kids, you know, because I have young adults, I have teenagers, and then working with my clients, you know, comparison is like this trap. So how can the woman stop? How can these women, how can our listeners stop comparing their journey to everyone else's?
Well, number one, it goes back to what we talked about before, which is, where is your identity found? Because when you come into agreement with the truth that you are chosen and set apart, that he is your authority, that he has plans for you, that he has drawn boundaries for you, this is how he speaks with such specificity and individuality to his children. So you may be lined up with miles and miles of people who do the same thing that you do, miles and miles of people who are further ahead on their journey, miles and miles of people whose bodies look different and the way that you wish they could. Let's not even get into coveting, right?
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. So
but
true.
He has made you with such specificity.
Amen.
So number one, it's coming into agreement with that, right? Number two, he tells us in his word not to look left and right, and not to look beyond his word, right? And so comparison is a trick. Competition is a trick. And again, it's the way the world uses it against ourselves. Social media is such a great example of that, right? Like, well, you got to be on social media to do business, which sometimes I'm like, do I though? But what I have to say is different than what you have to say. And there are people he's aligned that can only hear from you.
That's right.
And so my answer to comparison, and interestingly, I feel some of that right now because I'm launching this book. I was recently in a collaborative book where I wrote a chapter, and it immediately went to number one in categories that I wanted my book to be. I wanted my book to be number one in. And I'm already like, oh, well, but they went number one. Oh, but are they? And the Lord is like, no, I gave you this assignment.
Yep.
Be obedient, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And so are we going to surrender to that? And listen, y'all, I'm just going to say, you know, comparison is really about putting ourselves in the spotlight. And the only person that should be in our spotlight is Jesus.
Amen. That's
and
so
I'm
true.
not good at it.
Yeah, no,
it's so true.
It's so true. Because as you were talking, I was thinking about like all of the different, you know, comparison traps we get into from our marriages, comparing marriages to children, to grandchildren, to our finances, to our businesses, to our wealth, our health. I mean, just everything. It is so important to not look around. Like the minute we start looking around because we don't know somebody else's story, their grass always looks greener. I remember
Amen.
years ago hearing that quote, like, if you think your neighbor's grass is greener, go home and water your own. It's just like, yes, stop looking around. And on social media, like, really don't compare, because nobody tells the whole story on social media. They just, because we don't want to complain. Just know.
No, that is a highlight reel.
Yes, it is. It is. It's so true. So with the women that I work with, I always go to the root, and anytime we see progress, it's layers. It's layers. So how does that, like, I'm kind of thinking, like, how does that compare to like spiritual growth and sanctification? Like in our health, like the layers, getting down to the root, figuring out, oh, this is why you're struggling with your high anxiety. This is why you're bloated, your hormones are imbalanced. Like, so how does that, like the root, the layers, compare to like spiritual growth and just God just sanctifying us?
Completely. Absolutely. So similar, of course, because he's like created all of it. It is why Jesus says in John 15 that he will prune away, he will cut away the branches that don't produce fruit. And we're like, cool. Take those branches. I don't want those branches. And he will cut away the branches that do produce fruit so that they may what? Produce much fruit, right? So he is constantly peeling away layers. I mean, I don't know about you, Amber, but there are points that I get to in my journey and I'm like, all right, this feels good. And then he's like, let's go deeper, right? Let's go a little bit deeper. It's like a kid who's learning to walk, right? Like they take a few steps and then they fall and they get back up. But every day they're learning a little bit more. And you know what? I remember when my kids were toddlers, and throughout, there are points in your kid's life that like, then they regress a little bit, right? The same is true with us, even in our sanctification. In Philippians, Paul says, walk out your salvation. Like you've got to still be walking out with faith and doing the thing that he's given you to do, and he will take you deeper. There are so many women that I coach. The women that I coach one-on-one are, 6, 7, 8 figure businesses, and they've been established for a long time, and that has served them quite well until it doesn't. And then they're empty and they're unfulfilled, like you talked about earlier. And they're like, I don't understand, but my business is growing and everything looks like it looks so good on paper, but inwardly they're lacking peace and they can't figure it out. And it's because they're relying on themselves. And so we've got to peel away a layer and there's growth, and we've got to peel away another layer and there's growth. This is what he does. This is who he is. And we can be assured that when he's pruning us, it is for our best. We might not like it. It's going to be painful, but we know it's his best for us. And somebody said to me the other day, it's like he pulls out the sandpaper and he scuffs up the surface and then he shines it up because he's trying to see if that is reflecting Jesus better. Oh, it's still a little cloudy. Let's sand away a little bit more, right? Now the reflection's getting clearer. And that's what he does. That's what he does.
It's so true. Oh my goodness. It's so true. Oh yes. Yes. And I feel all of that too. I feel all the sanding and everything. So, okay. So I would love to know, what would you say to encourage the woman who feels like she's doing everything right in her family, marriage, her business, and her health, but she's still not seeing results yet? What would you say to encourage her?
Well, my encouragement is not to just throw the Bible verses at her and tell her she just needs to pray more or whatever. I would encourage her to look at what it is she's seeking, right? If she feels like she hasn't made it yet, or things seem to be slow, or they're not, like, well, what is going to prove to you that progress has been made? And oftentimes, Amber, we overlook that who we were yesterday, last week, a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, that we're different. And I encourage women to measure it based on that, to look at who you were 6 months ago, 5 years ago, right? The other day, I was reading about the woman with the issue of blood and that she had this issue for 12 years. And the Lord had me write in the margin, where was I 12 years ago? Okay, 12 years ago, February 2024, I had not given my life to Jesus, or 2014. I had not given my life to Jesus yet. What? Yeah. What was about to transpire over the next 9-10 months was so far beyond what I ever would have imagined would be happening, right? Good, bad, and ugly.
Yes.
But we want to measure our progress based on the world's way of measuring things. We want to measure our progress based on what we think. But my question is, can we look and see the progress that the Lord has made in us in a different way? And so I just would encourage these women to step back for a second and say, hold on, Lord, show me the progress that you've made in me. And they may not hear like, oh, daughter, I've made this progress, and in 6 more months, this is what's going to happen to you. Probably not going to know that, right? Can they step back and see, hold on, there has been progress? Because the word says to not despise small steps, and we despise small progress every day.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. Oh my goodness. Yes, Lord, show me the progress. What a fabulous interview. If you're in a season where healing, change, where it just feels slow, I want to remind you of something. God is just not fixing symptoms. He is rebuilding your foundations. In health, that looks like calming the nervous system, restoring digestion, balancing hormones, removing that which is keeping the body from being balanced, and it helping the body feel safe again. In faith, that looks like rebuilding trust, surrender, and obedience in daily decisions. Both take time, but they also create stability that protects you long term. If you've been feeling behind, I want to gently shift the question. Maybe instead of saying, why isn't this working faster? To, what is God strengthening in me right now? And once again, Erin has generously offered a devotional for you that supports this exact season, especially if you're struggling with patience, trust, or discouragement. You will find that devotional linked in the show notes. You'll also find my free symptom quiz linked there as well. When you take it, you'll receive a personalized video from me walking you through what your symptoms may be telling you about stress, hormones, digestion, and energy, and what supportive steps you could take to help you move forward. In our final episode, we're going into something that affects every part of healing and leadership: identity. Who are you when your body changes, your capacity shifts, and you can't do everything the way you used to? This conversation just might be the most important one of the entire series. So join us next week in the third part of my 3-part series with Erin Harrigan.